Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Matt Colville being wrong again. So this is part of my Matt Colville is wrong series. So if you're a YouTuber, it's hard. You would think it's hard to create content for Dungeons and Dragons, but it's not. Just listen to Matt Colville for 30 seconds, and if you're a good DM, you'll hear him say something wrong that you could then correct, right? Like, so this is me correcting Matt Colville on an outrageously wrong statement that he recently made. What's the point of correcting Matt Colville? Why not just let him say his stuff? Well, he's got like a ton of viewers, and he says ridiculous nonsense constantly, and I feel like we need, as a community, we need to make sure that people understand this is not how Dungeons and Dragons is played. All right, let's jump into it. Okay, here we go. All right, so Matt Colville did a hot start video recently. He said this is how you do a hot start on your game, right? And he's like, the best, one of the best ways to start a campaign is in a tavern. And he's like, so if they're in a tavern, the first question your players are going to ask is, how do our players know each other, right? And he's like, I don't know, who cares? And I was like, what? Wait, okay, first of all, okay, so first of all, we got to answer this question, because I want this to be super clear. Matt Colville is not dumb, and he's not a bad dungeon master. He's incredibly smart. Matt Colville is incredibly intelligent, okay? He's a good dungeon master for his players, I think, right? But here's the problem. He's outrageously self-unaware. So you hear this term self-aware? Matt Colville is self-unaware. He is not aware of himself and the position he's in. He still thinks he's a normal Dungeons and Dragons player. He's not. He's literally a Dungeons and Dragons millionaire, right? You know how many people in the world have made millions of dollars off of Dungeons and Dragons? You could probably count them on two people's fingers, right? Not a lot, right? It's incredibly rare to make millions of dollars on Dungeons and Dragons. It's not easy, right? He's done it. He's very good at it, right? He's good at doing this specific thing, which is creating content that is unique to him, right? But the reality is, I think he's completely oblivious to the fact that his players aren't normal players. His players are micro celebrities, right? He's a macro celebrity within the Dungeons and Dragons community. His players are now micro celebrities within Dungeons and Dragons community, and it shocks me how many people don't understand that once you get a camera on a game, your players are going to change. They're going to change the way they play. And he's completely unaware of this. He doesn't understand that he's no longer a normal dungeon master because his games are so public, and his players are no longer normal players because they're micro celebrities, right? And so when he gives advice that would work at his table, it will not work at any regular table, right? Most Dungeons and Dragons campaigns have a major problem. If your players don't know why their characters are bound to the other characters in their adventuring team, they're going to fight each other. There's a good chance of this, right? If you have any immature players in your team, they're gonna look for a target. If they get even slightly bored with the game, they're gonna look for a target within your game. Okay, and that's gonna be another player character. It's easy. A lot of players think it's fun. It's chaotic, right? But it's incredibly destructive to games, right? So only a fool would say, I don't know how my player characters know each other, and I don't care. Only a fool dungeon master would say that, right? The only reason that Matt Colville isn't a fool, but he's incredibly self-unaware. He really needs to understand that, his game is no longer even remotely normal, right? And and most dungeon masters don't come in with top-tier players the way Matt Colville game has, right? And also, if you're doing your YouTube for I'm sure you have 4 unbelievably dedicated players who have read probably every inch of the PHB, the MM, and the DMG, right? You are not right. Most dungeon masters do not have that kind of game, right? So here's the key: do not listen to Matt Colville. You, as a dungeon master, you darn well better know why your player characters know each other and why they care about each other, okay? Because if they don't, even one immature player can absolutely destroy your game literally within a single scene, right? Because all they need to do is just start a fight with another PC, right? And your game will go south right quick, right? And you've already, like, you might have a notepad, a notebook worth of material to run your game with, so you can't be allowing that, right? So do not listen to Matt Colville. Know why your player characters know each other, and make sure that you are giving them incentives to work as a well-functioning, well-oiled machine, right? You don't want a game where your player characters are fighting each other. Matt Colville is wrong. I'm going to say it again. That dude needs to become self-aware, right? Brilliant guy, good dungeon master for his players. Do not follow his advice for your game. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.